Hi, welcome to Insights. Um, this is where we take a look at all the different temperaments and see what we can learn so we can apply it to our lives, get to know ourselves a little bit better, and then the people that we're surrounded with. Today we're going to take a look and study and learn more about the melancholy personality. Years and years ago, Aristotle said that all men who are of perfect geniuses would definitely have the melancholy temperament. Michelangelo being one who would not have done any of the projects that he accomplished without having this perfect melancholy personality. The melancholy people like to study figures, graphs. They're very analytical. They like to know how something ticks or how it's wired. They're very thoughtful, even from the time they're young infants and young children. You will see them just studying, kind of like the phlegmatics temperaments do, but in a different way. What the melancholy is trying to figure out is how on earth can I make this better, or how does this work? So they are great geniuses as far as inventing things and asking the 5 questions: what, when, where, why, and how. Those are constantly going through their mind. They are very creative usually and are kind of drawn to the musical aspects. They are the type of student, if you're teaching a musical instrument, who will actually practice when you give them an assignment. Even if it's dull and boring, they will do it over and over and over until they get it perfect, because if it's not perfect, why do it at all? They like schedules. They like to be organized and and things planned out. When my one granddaughter would come over, even from an early age on, she would say, "What are we going to do next, Grandma? What are we going to do next?" And I picked up on that and thought, I will try and pass this on to her parents, which I did. And it really helped, because she was anxious even at an early age, about 3 or 4, where she was trying to figure out, after we get done with this, what are we going to do? So teachers who put up on the board their schedule, which subjects are going to follow and when lunch is and all that, you're really doing your melancholy students a big favor, because they will appreciate that. That's how they think, that's how their mind ticks. Melancholies like to study figures, analyze things. They make wonderful engineers, accountants. They find it just challenging. They just are drawn to it. It's not boring to them. Matter of fact, they don't know why everybody else in the world doesn't like to look at the world like that, because that's who they are. That's how most of us are. And hopefully through learning a little bit more about these temperaments, you will be able to understand why your husband or wife or loved ones do the things that they do. They like quiet times. When you're a parent and you have several children in the home, remember that your melancholy sons or daughters need to, from time to time, escape to a room by themselves. It will make everything go so much smoother if you allow them to do that. Sometimes if they have a younger brother or sister who is more of the sanguine persuasion, they just need to get away from them for a little bit, because they're just too supercharged and up and doing things, and the melancholy needs to be a little bit more withdrawn so that they can have less noise and confusion and be able to focus. They like to find out the whys and the whats behind things. The 5 questions that they are constantly thinking in their mind is who, what, when, where, and why. And when you give them toys, even from an early age on, they will really enjoy the toys that they have to try and figure out, how does that do that? Why did that make that noise? And so if you're shopping for them, keep that in mind. When a sanguine personality is spending most of their time talking and entertaining, the choleric is spending most of their time working or doing, and the phlegmatics are spending most of their time studying or watching. The melancholy is going to be trying to perfect something. They're going to be trying to figure out what they can invent. They're very creative. Michelangelo was a definite perfect melancholy. He wouldn't have been able to do the things that he did without having those traits in his personality. They like routines. They are not fly by the seat of your pants personality. They are very much moved by other people's talents and abilities, and they look up to them and they respect them. If they like ones who are very talented, musical, those are the ones who might enjoy going to the symphony and watch other people's performances, because they understand what it's taken to get to that level in whichever field it is. If you are a teacher and you are teaching handwriting or printing, these are the students who, when everybody else is getting through with their assignments, they're going to want more time. Why is that? Because they're trying to make those letters match the charts on the wall or the way that you presented it to them perfect. And they're going to get upset pretty easily if they cannot master a skill. So the best thing that you can do in that situation is to try and help them realize that not everything has to be perfect. To do their very best always, but that they have to move on because they have other things that they need to accomplish during the day. I always like to share with you a couple of personal stories that have recently happened. And so just yesterday, we've had our kitchen table needed to be refurnished. It had some scratches in it, and it's a beautiful wooden table. So we wanted to keep it, and so we went ahead and found someone that was highly recommended as a great woodsman. He has great crafts and abilities. So he took this, picked it up, took it to his home, and it seemed like an eternity, probably close to a month that he's had our table. I kept on asking my husband, well, when is that kitchen table going to be coming back? And he would just calmly respond by saying, don't worry about it. The guy's taking his time. I'm sure he's doing a great job. So yesterday, Mike, we're going to call him that because that's his name, he showed up at 8:20, which kind of threw me off just a little bit because he told us that he would be there at 8:30, and usually perfect melancholies like everything to be perfect. They'd be ringing the doorbell at 8:30 precise, but he showed up 10 minutes early. I think he was just so anxious to show us the finished product. When he came in, he had a helper with him, and they took painstakingly time moving that table and putting the legs on and adjusting it and then flipping it over. I watched this whole process as it went down. And then Mike stepped back and he just admired his work. And I could tell it was just like a piece of art to him. And he said, I went to the store and I looked over every single piece of laminate until I found the perfect piece that would have the correct knots in it and grains that I thought that you and your husband would enjoy. And I finally found the right one, and so I purchased it. Then he went through telling me how many layers of coating and everything he had put down on the table, and it is beautiful. It's exquisite. We're going to get lots of compliments when people see it. They're probably all going to want to know where they can get a table just like at ours. Anyway, I gave Mike lots of compliments, and I told him, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And he was, of course, eating that up. But then he looked over to me and said, well, there is one slight imperfection. And I have lived with a melancholy husband for many, many years now. And so I thought, it takes one to kind of know one here. So I said, don't tell me. Please, Mike, don't tell me where the imperfection is. And he looked at me so puzzled and he said, well, why? And I said, because then every time I see the table, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to zero in on that one tiny imperfection that you've alluded to. So he kind of shrugged his shoulders and said, oh, okay. And then he said, so now when did you say your husband was going to be home? And I said, well, I thought he'd be back by now, but I'll tell him, I'm sure he's going to be pleased, Mike, with your work. Well, I could tell that Mike was disenchanted with my answer, and he really wanted to meet with Roger because they're kind of two peas of a pod. And then thankfully, my husband came in the door, came over, and the two of them just began chit-chatting like best friends and speaking the same language. And it was fun to hang back and watch the two perfectionists, or two melancholy, visit. Later that evening, as we were going to bed, I said, don't you just love our new table? It just looks so gorgeous. And my husband said, oh yeah, Mike did a great job. And I said, well, he says that there's a little imperfection in it, but I didn't see it and I don't really want to know where it's at. Did you by chance spot that? Now, all the time I'm asking the question, I pretty much know what the answer is going to be. But my husband turned to me and said, well, yeah, I saw it first thing, but it doesn't bother me. It's just part of the design. It's part of the work. It looks great. And I just smiled, because I think even to this day, if I had to go and analyze that table and study it for hours, I doubt if I could even find that imperfection. The other thing I want to comment is I'd like to give you advice on how to work with the different personalities. So I just mentioned that my husband is a perfectionist. He is a melancholy. And over the years, I would load the dishwasher and clean the table off and put the dishes in and think nothing of it, turn it on, and I was very thankful that in the morning the dishes would be all spotless. Well, year after year after year, that bothered my husband. And I would, out of the corner of my eye, sometimes see him over taking the dishes, the pots and the pans back out of the dishwasher, setting them on the counter while he's rearranging everything. Well, when I was younger and didn't know and understand about the temperaments, that would have really annoyed me. But as time has passed, I've studied that, and he's right. There is a good way to load a dishwasher, and kind of an incorrect way. Even though the water is going to reach most all those dishes and they may get clean, his way is better. So now what I do is I help take all the dishes over to the counter, and I just set them there, scrape them, and have them all ready. But instead of going through that same pattern of me loading and then him going over and unloading and reloading them, now I just set them there and let him load them himself. So when I told him about this video and that I was going to add that to this conversation today, he said, really? So that's why you've been doing that? I noticed you started doing that some time ago. I didn't really know why, but I sure appreciate it. So I hope that this talk gives you some tips and better understanding. Remember to apply your new insights in a kind and good way. Thanks so much.